Here's a question I want you to actually answer, not just think about. How much money do you have? And more importantly, is that good? Is it enough? Are you ahead of where you should be or behind? Most people, they have no idea. They know their salary, but they have zero context for whether it's a lot or a little compared to everyone else their age. And that context matters, especially if you're trying to figure out whether you're on track for retirement. Today, we're going to fix that. I'm going to show you the real numbers: medium income, average income, the top 10%, the top 1%, broken down by age with fresh 2026 data. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand. My name is Rip. Welcome back to Rip Talks Money. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into the numbers, I want to make one important point here about how to actually read them. A $50,000 salary, it means something completely different at 25 than it does at age 55. A 25-year-old making 50,000, that's actually above the median for their age group. A 55-year-old making the same 50K, that is well below it. That's why comparing yourself to your age group, it is way more useful than comparing yourself to the national average. The national average lumps a 22-year-old working their first job in with a 52-year-old at his peak earning years. That's not a useful comparison. Also worth knowing, the average income is always higher than the median income. Always. And that gap is significant. Right now, the overall median individual income in the US, it's about $50,200. The average is around $73,472. Now that's a $23,000 gap. And it exists because a small number of extremely high earners, they pull the average up. So when you hear people saying the average American makes X amount of dollars, just know that number is being yanked upward by the people making several $100,000 a year. The median tells you what a more typical person actually earns. So let's start with the younger age, the younger end of the range, because this is where the trajectory gets set. Now, at age 25, the median income, it's around $40,000 a year. The average is just under 50K. To be in the top 10% at 25, you need to be making about $90,600. And the top 1%, $201,000 at 25. Now, that is a super rare slice of the population if you think about it, right? I mean, you got to think about early financial careers here, something in tech. It's not a typical experience. If you're 25 and you're making 40 to 50,000, you're right in the middle of that pack for your age. That's not a bad place to be. What matters more at this stage is your trajectory, right? Are you growing? Because at 35, the jump is significant. The median climbs up to 60,000 and the average hits around 84K. The top 10% in this threshold is $155,000. And the top 1% at 35, they're making over $500,000 per year. Now that decade from 25 to 35, that is typically when the biggest income gains happen. From experience, right? From job switches, from hitting your stride in your career. If you're 35 and you're still earning what you made at 27, it's worth asking the question, why? Now here we get over to this. Your 40s and 50s, these should be your peak earning years. This is the window that most retirement planners, they focus on, and for good reason. These are typically the highest earning years of your life. And they're also when retirement savings should be accelerating fastest. at age 45, the median income, it's around 60K. Same as 35, interesting now, isn't it? The average bumps slightly here to 85,450. And the top 10% is $165,250. The income gains from your 30s to 40s, they are smaller than your 20s to 30s jumps, but they're still there, especially in more senior roles. Now at age 55, your median income, again, it is $60,000. It's flat across the whole decade in the middle, but the average is 84,700, and the top 10 is above $175,000. But something interesting happens here. The middle of the income distribution has essentially plateaued, but the top earners, they keep climbing. Experience and the seniority, they pay off more at extremes than they do in the middle. But one thing I want you to keep in your mind, at 55, you're probably only 10 years away from retirement. So the question isn't just what you make, it's what percentage of what you make you are actually putting away. A $60,000 income in your mid 50s, that goes mostly to lifestyle spending. And it's not the same at $60,000 income where you're maxing out your 401k and you're putting the extra into a brokerage account. Now your 60s, this is the surprising numbers. This is something that you see on your screen. It surprises a lot of people. At 65, the median income, it's only $57,668, excuse me. It's actually a slight dip from the mid-career median, but the average income at 65, it's a tad over $90,000. That's the highest average of any group that we've looked at. So what's happening here, right? Well, two different things. First, a lot of people have retired or they've gone part-time by 65. So the median reflects many people working reduced hours or even drawing from Social Security. Second, the people who are still working full-time at 65, they tend to be in the senior high-paying position, which pulls that average way up. The top 10% at 65, it's $187,000, the highest of any age group in our data. In the top 1% at 65, they're hitting over $571,000 per year. The broader picture is once you hit your 60s, income distribution. That's it. Some people are winding down. Others are still at the peak of their high earning careers. If you're in that first camp, well, you need your savings and Social Security strategies to help carry the weight. If you're in the second, you have a real opportunity to sprint to the finish line. Now, what the numbers mean for retirement, right? This is probably one of the most important parts of this video. Here's the part that most income by age videos actually skip. What do these numbers actually mean for your retirement? Because let's be honest, retirement is the end goal. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Median income at the peak earning years, it's only around 60K. After taxes, you're probably looking at what, 48 to 50,000 take home? You're going to spend most of that on your lifestyle. And you're saving almost nothing for retirement at that point. The general guideline for most planners is to save at least 15% of your gross income for retirement. So on a $60,000 salary, you should be saving about $9,000 a year. Now, over 30 working years with reasonable market returns, that compounds into real money. But a lot of people aren't hitting 15%. They're hitting around 5 or 6%, some even less. The other thing these numbers reveal is that if you are in that top 25% or even top 10% of earners for your age, you have such a massive advantage. But only if you don't expand your lifestyle to match. This is where lifestyle creep destroys retirement outcomes. Someone making $120,000 a year who lives like they're making $120,000, they're often in a worse retirement position than someone only making 70K a year who is constantly saving. Remember, the income here is your opportunity. What you do with it, that is actually the outcome. Now, here are two moves that will actually change your percentile. And I want to leave you with something practical because knowing where you actually stand is useful. But knowing what to do about it, that is even better. Move number one, switch jobs. It more often than feels comfortable. The research is consistent on this. Workers who stay at the same company, they get an average raise of 2 to 3% per year. But your workers who change jobs, they typically get a 10 to 20% income bump. Now, over a career, that gap is absolutely enormous here, right? If you haven't looked at your skills are exactly worth in the last 2 years, I can almost bet you are probably undervalued. Move number two, increase your savings rate before you increase your lifestyle. Every time your income goes up, a raise, a promotion, a job switch, the first move isn't to upgrade your car or your apartment. It's to increase what's going into your retirement account. Automate it so it happens before you see the money. This is the single most reliable way to convert higher income into higher retirement security. The numbers are just a scoreboard. What matters is what you do at your current position to move in the right direction. So that's where Americans actually stand on income in 2026 by age, by percentile, with real context for what it actually means for retirement. Quick recap if you're keeping score, and I hope you are. Your median individual income in the US is about $50,000 200. By age, the median peaks in the 35 to 55 window at around $60,000. The top 10% starts at about 90,000 at age 25 and it climbs all the way up to 187,000 by 65. And averages are always higher than medians because of how high earners actually skew this data. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your age bracket down below in the comments and tell me, did these numbers surprise you? Or did they match what you expected? And if this video helped you make sense of where you stand, hey, give it a thumbs up. That's going to help this channel grow. It's brand new. This is episode number 4. Go share it with a friend. We'll be back, remember, on Thursday, Monday, Thursday, new video split. I got a good one lined up. I'm Rip, and I'll see all y'all on the next one.